The value of the work that you guys do is really important kind of stuff that we use in enablement, right? How do we take that information and translate it in a way that allows salespeople to not only grasp it and understand it, but how do they then take that to leverage relationships with their customers, relationships with those that are using the particular products and services that they've got, for a number of different things. I mean, to elevate, their strategic value with that organization, as well as to just do their jobs, right? To sell additional products and services.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Marketing Mode by Ascend2. I'm Todd Lebo, CEO of Ascend2, and I'm very happy today we have a special guest today, Terry Arnold. Welcome, Terry.
Thanks, Todd. I mean, I'm glad to sit in and chat a little bit about some of the work that you do. Always excited to see what Ascend is up to and to share some insights about some of the work that you guys have done.
Well, thank you, Terry, and I always enjoy our conversations that we have. And just to let everybody know who's listening today, Terry and I had just a call this past week, and as we were talking about, Terry's expertise is sales enablement. So he's done a lot of things, and I'm sure through the course of this session, he'll touch a few things that he's done, but has a wide range of skills and talents. He's been devoted to sales enablement here for a while. And as we were discussing, he's actually worked with companies who have used Ascend2 original research. And as he started telling me about some of the things that he had done with taking that research and applying it to the sales department and really making it, enabling that research to be used by sales, we shortly realized that we needed to jump on this call and that we thought it would be really helpful to the audience.
Yeah, that's right. The value of the work that you guys do is really important kind of stuff that we use in enablement, right? How do we take that information and translate it in a way that allows salespeople to not only grasp it and understand it, but how do they then take that to leverage relationships with their customers, relationships with those that are using the particular products and services that they've got, for a number of different things. I mean, to elevate, their strategic value with that organization, as well as to just do their jobs, right? To sell additional products and services. So yeah, I'm excited to chat about this today because, putting this stuff into motion is really what makes a difference. Other than just creating a piece of leave behind content, there's so much more that you can do with these types of tools and work that Ascend2 does. So glad to chat about it.
Yeah, because we always talk about, like, here at Ascend2, we try to do what we call research in action. So yeah, typically marketers are using our research to do very specific business strategies. And marketers in general, they're really good at knowing how to do, the initial demand generation components with the research. So they start putting it into all those demand generation programs. But what we find a lot of times is companies don't have a Terry who are thinking about the sales enablement. And a lot of times there's a lot of additional ways that they could use the research that may be underutilized. So I think our goal today is to be very practical with some very hands-on examples of how you can do that. Because it's really important in my mind that as marketers, we help to connect the dots. So the research is a great data point, but research is only as good as how to use that research to influence your decisions, right? So we want readers out there to not only read the report and look at the data, but then it should spur the idea of, okay, what do I need to do differently? Or what do I need to go to my boss and say, hey, we need to do this because I have data to support it. So connecting those dots. And we're just going to jump into it, Terry. So let's just play a little bit of a scenario here of your company has just done a research report with Ascend2. Marketing's now contacted you in sales enablement and says, hey, we have this great research report. And I guess my question to you would be, what's the first step you should take?
Yeah, well, the first thing is to get over the fact that you think everybody is going to read it and comprehend it and know it just the way that you had designed it, right? So when you put this research together, we want to focus on a specific piece of the industry, and our intention is that everybody would understand it. The reality is it won't. I mean, salespeople won't take the time to oftentimes read through all of that content. So the first thing that we wanted to do was to figure out, how do we help them understand exactly what this is and why this is important to you, salesperson, and why this is important to your customer? So we created this guide, and the guide was really designed to begin to distill down what are some of the key relevant items of the research that are super important to begin to share with your customers, because it'll make a difference in their business and elevate you, right, as a salesperson, to be much more strategic and engaging around issues which are relevant in the marketplace. So that was the first thing we did, was really distill a number of those down. The second thing we did was we helped them really understand how this applies to the business. So in our situation, we had a specific set of products and services, and what we were trying to do was to use this data to help our salespeople understand, like, these are the market conditions that your customer is currently dealing with, and these are the products and solutions that we have that can actually begin to address, how to resolve those specific issues. So once we distilled it down, and then we went down to that next level to say, why is this important to you? And then we actually went solution by solution. So we basically created a grid that said, let's look at these key elements of the survey, right? Oftentimes our research comes up with maybe 5 or 6 different core elements that are going on within the industry. And what we had done was we just sort of lined up, said, okay, so if a customer is dealing with this specific aspect of this survey or of this research, these are the different elements that align to our business. And it helped them begin to see how a customer views this particular research when they look at their own businesses. So when they're struggling with a specific issue and they're recognizing that we've got some pain points, it was really important for us to help the salesperson understand, what does that pain point look like as it relates to the customer as they're looking at it through their lens. By doing that, we're able to help them understand this piece of research is impactful, right? It can help your customer resolve the challenges that they're dealing with and put you in a position of being able to be, a strategic advisor, because you're not just trying to sell them a particular solution. You're trying to address impactful things that are going on in their business that they're trying to resolve today. So translating it from, a broad research project to individual things that you can do to help resolve those issues was really, really critical. So once you've identified those challenges, then you can begin to position. So we literally took the opportunity to come back to the salesperson to say, now that we've identified these issues, connected them to your customer in terms of the fact that they're wrestling with them, here is how you begin to position what it is we do as it matches up to solving that particular problem. So we took it from, an interesting piece of content, which was insightful about our business, to turning it into a strategic discussion with our customer about how we help them achieve their specific industry goals or their business goals. And it's so much more, valuable when you have a salesperson who's armed with that kind of data that gives them a chance to have, a meaningful conversation with their customer. It made such a big difference, Todd. It really, really did.
Yeah, so you could take one chart, like if it's a chart about here's the challenges that your industry is having around this topic, you can take those challenges, align them with solutions, not only your solution, but like here's how to solve that problem, and here's what you would need that maybe aligns with what we provide on that solution, so that they can go from beginning to end with pretty seamlessly without them having to connect those dots.
Yeah, and we pulled out, individual, charts and graphs from the actual research. And we just literally said, what does this mean? Let me tell you what this means. And it helped us sort of translate for them the background that was going on in the industry, and then connect it to things that they would understand, like privacy and security, or data augmentation, or, many issues as it relates to data transformation and compliance. We all understood those terms, right? But here we were helping them understand this is the customer lens that they're coming through. And now you can see how what we do can actually solve those problems. So making that connection was huge. And we did it, I think he didn't need to do it to the entire deck, but we were able to, or the entire survey report. What we had done was pulled out the key ones that we thought made the most impact to give them something that they could just readily use, right? Put it into a deck and or have an engaging conversation with their customer. Yeah.
Yeah. And, it's interesting, Terry, I know for myself on the research side, we work hard to be able to tell a story.
Yeah.
But then, when I start, for example, thinking about like a sales department and a salesperson and what they need to do their job and support, and really it's support the prospect or the person they're talking to, then I look at even the research at a whole different lens, with a whole different lens. So it really does take somebody to sit down and really have that thoughtful analysis and that thoughtful strategy behind how we're gonna tell that story for the salesperson so they can just pick it up and use it very seamlessly.
Yeah, and I think it's important that, as a sales enablement organization, that you sort of take control of that message, because it's, as an organization, like we've created our own go-to-market strategy and the language that we want to use. So it's really important, I think, that we interpret what this means for our salespeople so that they can pick it up and run with it. I would much rather have them pick up and run with something that we've curated for them rather than just give them something and tell them, you can use this to make an impact with your customers. Oftentimes it's important just to show people how, right, and how that works. And that's one of the things that we had done was taking that next step for them.
Yeah. Maybe someday we need to do some research to really find, like, I feel like companies, this is just a little sidebar, but the companies, by sometimes ignoring that sales enablement component of the organization, or really, diluting maybe the overall value, or maybe not getting as much value out of some of the things that they do because of not having that one, it could be a department, but sometimes it could even just be a person who's really acting as that sales enablement champion to do all those little pieces that really add up to a lot.
Yeah. Enablement itself extends into a lot of different areas. I mean, it's from a practice, right? There's a lot of things that we do as it relates to training, as it relates to creating discipline around sales process, all the way through to, creating content which helps engage, a meaningful dialogue with customers. And so, sales enablement goes into a lot of different areas, and it's really important, for those organizations that are really trying to upskill their sales teams. Enablement can play, a great role. And for example, if you talk about ways that we had done this in the past, and particularly with some of the research we got from you, I had some salespeople that had great relationships with their customers and the agencies that they'd serve. And one of the things that we had done with them is typically at the right around beginning of, say, Q3, customers, depending on their fiscal, right, are starting to do their annual planning, right, and their budgeting. How are they going to budget for the following year, whether it be marketing, services, whatever. And what we had done was we had positioned, the creation of content and research, around that time frame, so that we could begin to create what we called sort of a state of the industry report. And these were done for individual customers. And I would work with the salesperson, and we would sit down and talk about, what are the key things that this customer is trying to achieve. We would take this data and then align it with what that customer was trying to achieve, and then use it as a way to come in and help that customer benchmark, right? How are they doing in relation to the industry? Is it aligned with the research report that we had done? Also, it allowed us to, much like we had said before, begin to highlight those areas where they could get some improvement based on some of the solutions that we could bring to bear. And when we did that with these customers, it was a great opportunity for us to do a couple things. One, we established ourselves as an expert in our space. We did lunch and learns. We would come in with their sometimes junior level marketing teams, and it was an opportunity for them to experience a conversation around research, which was important to their roles and their understanding of their industry, and it helped them really upskill their teams around what's going on in their space. The other thing we did was we worked with lunch and learns at various agencies, so that the agency and their various advertising planners and project managers and account owners had an opportunity to understand what was going on in their business as well. And so, it did a couple things. One, it established us as, being experts in our field. We knew what we were doing. Those types of conversations can get very strategic. So you can get access to fairly high level people when you're sharing with them information which is germane to their business. And it just really helped us create a mechanism to engage. Because really what we wanted to do, it's, if we sold something, great, but the most important thing is we were contributing to the relationship. Our customers oftentimes were trying to figure out, what do we do next, right? How do we align ourselves, to be more effective in what we do? And they would look to us as the expert. They're like, you guys manage a lot of different customers, and so you should know, right? You should know. And so this is a tool, right, which allows us to come in and say, we do know, and let me help you understand what's going on in the industry. And it just created a much more strategic discussion that we were able to have because of this kind of research, which helped carry the ball and do that kind of conversation. So it was super, super helpful when we put that kind of.
And whenever you start having your client look to you as the expert, it just totally changes the engagement. And even those junior people, I think it's really important to remember that someday they're not going to be junior. Someday they're going to be decision makers, and they might be at that company, but they might be somewhere else, and they're going to go to those people who provided them that valuable information, to help them throughout their career. I mean, that's, you're building, you're always trying to build for the present and the future, and I think that's so, it just makes so much sense. And it's really nice to have, I know from the research perspective, it's nice to have the sales engagement so that we can also then have the flow back of information for year 2 or year 3 of that research study. A lot of times we have companies, which is great, they end up doing, the second and third annual state of report, whatever their topic area is. And it's always great to have, to know, for example, what really resonated from the sales perspective, right? You said things like, for example, when we talk and we hear, how they're using it for, like what you mentioned, like that third quarter planning for the new year, we can infuse into our research, questions like, what do you project your budget to be for this area in the coming year? Is it going to be, the same, higher, lower, maybe not a dollar amount, but a percentage amount. So you can just kind of see like where the industry is going, right? And then that's a good conversation for the person you're talking to of like, well, here's some research we have on, what the industry says as far as, budgeting. That's a pretty helpful piece of information, especially if you're fighting with your boss about getting budget. And at least you can take some information to them about, what others in the industry are doing. So it all helps.
Yeah, it really does. It helps sort of get the priorities at least aligned, right? So what are the most important things to focus on? And may not necessarily be, getting at a budget number for sure, but it's, where's your head in terms of the important things you're trying to figure out. And the other things that we had tried to do with you in the past was is create sort of an anchor project, right? It's something that, if you take a particular topic, And that topic or issue is going to evolve over time. I mean, take AI today; it's a perfect example.
Sure.
So AI, in its infancy a number of years ago, and it's been around much longer than most of us know, has really evolved. And it's important that you have a lens over time, right? So are things beginning to emerge, and how are they beginning to break out? So creating really an anchor research topic that you could do year after year or every couple of years. What it does is the entity that's doing the research, right? They become the foundational expert in that, and it's the go-to. Like, there's a lot of different reports that I go to because they are the one, right? They are the one that do that year over year. And I'm always interested in changes over last year, and are issues moving or sliding, or what are the topics and how do they align? So, creating a foundational piece of research, which is tied to your business, really does a lot for being able to establish not only you as a reputable sort of go-to on that particular topic, but you create a great resource that people want. And
Well, that's
that's
actually that. Before I ever got into uh, Ascend2, and before that, my previous company where we really did a lot of research. Before I was in marketing, but before I got into research, I worked for a personal finance uh, magazine actually, and one of our partners was a nonprofit, and every year they did a survey on retirement savings. And it
yeah,
was, are Americans saving enough? Like, how much are they saving? Are they saving enough for retirement? Are they confident in their, that they're going to be ready for retirement? And it became a staple on the state of retirement in America. And to me, like, just the light bulb went off. It's like, wow, what a powerful, powerful branding component. Well, helpful to the audience, but also so powerful to the point of, hey, now we are known, and every year people
yeah,
are expecting this and looking forward to it. That's a very it's a differentiator, and
yep,
it's hard to have differentiators now. It's competition, and depending on your industry, it's probably very competitive. So that ability to differentiate yourself from the competition and to build that trustworthiness,
yeah.
and you know it's very unique. And that's why I think the original research like always resonated with me, of what a great tool. And you can also kind of build it into your value prop, right? The value
Yeah.
proposition of your company, that we want to be somebody who's a trusted source, and a data driven organization. So
Yeah.
a lot of interesting things.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, you constantly need to be telling your customers about your value proposition and how you differentiate. And one of the ways that we've used this type of data to do just that is in business reviews. You know, I've been with many different companies over the years, and I can't tell you that any one company thought that they did business reviews exceptionally well. All of them have been fraught with some challenges in terms of, how do you present what it is you do back to your customer to show that you're adding value to their business, and that you're taking them to where they want to go. And we used a lot of this data as within those reviews to help the customer understand, like, here is where the market is, and now let's look at you as we benchmark you against where the market is at. So we help the customer understand, where the industry is, but then we also show them how they can get either up to par or begin to surpass where the industry is at by using this kind of data. And again, that certainly helps them understand what our value proposition is, but it really helps them understand we're a strategic partner, right? We're just not a vendor here to sell you stuff. We're here to help you better understand your marketplace. We're here to help you better understand the uniqueness that you have as a provider in this space, and how we can help you achieve your goals and objectives. And it just did so much for us. And I talked about that salesperson before, and that salesperson that I'd worked with, they were always perceived as a strategic advisor, and when you're selling from that platform, you differentiate yourself as a business partner, right? You're someone who's interested in their business, not just from a profitability standpoint. You're interested in the relationship, and you're interested in attaching yourself to their goals and objectives. And it just allows you to really step above any other providers that are out there, and it increases your value for that business. And we use this data to do just that. So it was super helpful.
Well, Terry, I think we probably need to close up this session. I have a feeling we'll have to have you back because so much information to share, and what I love about what you did was very practical, very systematic, and repeatable. And so I was just, would you be willing to share your email if anybody wanted to contact you?
Sure.
To just talk about this topic in more depth and get some assistance on what they could do as far as implementation at their organization?
Yeah, absolutely. You can catch me on LinkedIn for sure. And or you can check out my website, which is taconsultingservices.com, taconsultingservices.com. There you'll find all my contact information and actually a bunch of content. I've got a number of blogs out there which talk about some of the topics that we've talked about here today. And if you'd like to connect, certainly track me down there. I'm passionate about enablement stuff, and I'll talk your ear off all day if you give me the time. So.
Well, I thoroughly enjoy it. Like I said, we weren't even planning to do this, but after having that conversation this week and reconnecting, because it's been a couple of months since we talked last, it's like, we just need to jump on, and I think this is very helpful. So thank you, Terry. I really appreciate it, and I'll make sure I have that information in the comments field as well, so you can reach out to Terry. So thank you all. We appreciate it, and have a great rest of your week.
Yeah, thanks, Todd.
You're welcome.
We want to hear from you. Feel free to comment or leave a review, or head over to ascend2.com to learn more about our research.